Hey everyone, I welcome you all to this JUnit full course by Simplilearn. In this complete course, we will learn everything we need to know about JUnit and Mokito JUnit. We have Anuj to guide us through this journey. We shall begin with understanding the basics of JUnit and have a look at different aspects of JUnit. In these aspects, we shall understand the relevance and features of JUnit. Moving forth, we shall learn the working of JUnit with Java and Eclipse with the help of a hands-on demo. After we have a complete knowledge about JUnit and its working, we shall go on to explore Mokito. In Mokito JUnit, we shall understand what mocking is and how we can perform it. While we are at it, we shall know about the basics of stub and how to create it. To better understand the Mokito JUnit, we shall see all these processes and the entire working of Mokito with a hands-on demo. But before we begin, make sure you have subscribed to our YouTube channel and don't forget to click on the bell icon so you never miss an update from Simplilearn.
Welcome everyone to yet another topic on JUnit tutorial. Now in this one we are going to talk about what exactly is an JUnit tool all about and how we can do various kind of test implementations with the help of JUnit. So let's talk about the agenda which we are going to cover here. Now in this one specifically we are going to talk about like what exactly is JUnit, what is this particular framework all about. Then we are going to talk about JUnit installation, how we can do the installation of JUnit and what are the different steps we can get involved on that. And then we are going to talk about like the features of JUnit, what are the different typical features of JUnit are all about. Then JUnit annotations we're going to talk about, and then JUnit in Java and the actual implementations, some tutorials or some demos on how to implement JUnit with Eclipse. So these are some of the main topics which we are going to cover all together over here as such. Now let's talk about what exactly is the JUnit tool all about, like what are the different things we can implement with the help of this tool here. So JUnit is basically a kind of unit testing framework which is there for the Java. So it's kind of a default offering for the Java programming language that we can use the JUnit for the unit testing framework for performing the unit testing. Now the main benefit of the JUnit is like it's using the same syntax like a Java programming language. So it makes it very easy for a Java developer to write and execute the test cases. So most of the times when the developers are going to work on the Java programming languages, so they prefer that JUnit as a default unit testing framework for them because they get the language advantage, they get the easily integrations in the Eclipse. So those benefits helps the developers to decide JUnit specifically for writing the test cases and running the test cases there. Now whenever these test cases are actually being executed, whenever you add up a new piece of source code, so all the unit test cases will be again executed there every time when you run a new build. So all the unit test cases gets executed, but you also need to take care that if you are adding up a new functionalities, you also have to add the corresponding test cases to that. So increasing more and more code will be done by the developers, but at the same time you have to sync or you have to keep your test cases up to date also. And as a part of every build, each and every test cases will be re-executed every time you're doing the build 5 times, 6 times a day. Every time the all unit test cases will be executed over there and the response will be given back. Right, now let's talk about what exactly is a unit testing. Now unit testing refers to the testing of the small modules or the small piece of chunks or the codes here. Now it's basically used to have the early identification of the defects and the bugs, because you cannot simply rely on the QA team to perform the testing and then provide the feedback. Whereas on the with the help of this unit testing framework, we can immediately get the feedback right away. Once we are running the test cases, immediately we will be able to know like these are the different test cases which we have got over here. Now the developers don't even have to spend more time on fixing the bugs and issues, because these test cases will help them with the easy and the fast feedback. So according to that, they can fix the bugs and they can take the decision whether the source code is working fine as expected or there is any kind of issues as such present with this one. So unit test casing is something which is very important from the developers perspective also, because it helps the developers to understand that whether they have written a successful code or if there is any kind of scope of issues or bugs over here. Also, the successful unit test cases increases the overall confidence of the developers, because it increases the overall performance and the quality of the product also. So by having the successful executions of the unit test cases, developers can understand that yes, the source code is working fine as expected, and there is no scope of bugs or any issues as such with this source code here. So that's the main benefit which we get with unit testing, that with this fast feedback channel, we will be able to take the decisions whether the source code is ready for the production environment deployment or not. So that's a main benefit which we get with the unit testing here. Now, of course, this can be done in two ways: manual testing and automated testing. Now, in case of manual testing, you have to do this thing manually within a manual tester or a manual testing approach. And in this one, you will not be depending on any kind of automated tool which can be scheduled or which can be executed in non-interactive manner. On the other hand, automated test case is something which is used to be executed using the tool, and it is something which is being done so that you will be able to get the complete automation. There is no manual efforts which is required as such. You are going to have like complete deployment and automations being done as such in this case. So automated testing is something in which you will be giving more focus on the automation tools. You may be having one or a couple of tools which using which you can write the automated test cases and you can perform the complete automation. In case of manual testing, it's quite less reliable, because you are dependent on the a particular tester which can perform the testing according to his efforts, and it's quite time consuming also, because you can only run the test cases for probably 8 to 9 hours per a day. Whereas on the other hand, the automated test case is something which is quite reliable, because it does not depends on a human requirement. So it can be done like 24/7. So anytime you can run those test cases, and that's the reason why these test cases are quite faster as compared to any other manual testing approach here. So JUnit test cases and the automated test cases really helps the developers and the QA professionals to test the source code much faster as compared to the manual testing. Now let's talk about the JUnit installation. Now, as part of the installation of JUnit, you don't require to install any exe file or any kind of program there. There are a couple of jar files which is required, which needs to be there into the class path, so that every time when you write some JUnit test cases, you should be able to refer those jar files, because without having those jar files into your class path of your project, you will not be able to run the JUnit test cases. So that's the only dependency you require. If you are running a Maven build, then these dependencies will be added up into the pom.xml file. If you are referring or doing the build from the Eclipse or doing the development from the Eclipse, then you have to put up these jar files into the class path of the project, so that these jar files can be loaded up and the JUnit can be referred over here. So the installation is pretty straightforward, but let's see what are the different steps we need to follow. Now, as a prerequisite of understanding the demo about JUnit, the first initial two things is like you require a JDK to be installed. Now you can download the JDK 8 over here from this Oracle website, and this is something which you can download for the Windows or whatever platform you have. You can pretty much install it for whatever platform is there. So for Windows platform, you can download for 32-bit and 64-bit both option over here. And once it's installed, so you should be able to use the Eclipse latest tool. Now all you need to do is that you need to go to eclipse.org, and there you can download the latest version of the Eclipse. Now these two main things which you require, because Eclipse will be required for creating the JUnit test cases, and of course a kind of IDE where you can run some test cases, JUnit test cases and all. And then Oracle is something which is required as a runtime for running the JDK also, and the JUnit test cases also, and Eclipse here. So that's a prerequisite which we got over here in this one. So I have already got these two things installed into my system, and I have Eclipse there. So let's move on to the Eclipse and see that how it goes on there. But before that, you also require the JUnit jar files, because in order to have a particular JUnit framework loaded up, we require some particular files, jar files over here in this case. So I can just search for JUnit 4 over here, and when you search for JUnit 4, so what happens, like this particular page will help you or give you all the details about the JUnit 4. Now you can go for the version notes of the different versions, but if you want to download, all you need to do is, like, you can say like download and install, and the moment you go there, so it will give you the details. Now there are two jar files which is required. JUnit.jar file is required over here. hamcrest-co.jar file, these two jar files are required here if you want to download it into the test class path. If you feel that you want to use a Maven based project, then in that case you have to specifically go for this dependency in the POM file, and according to that, that particular version will be downloaded and will be referred over there. So these are the ways that how you can get the particular softwares, the required things into the place. So I'm going to put up these jar files into a location so that I should be able to get the particular details stored, and I can refer to them into my Eclipse. So I'm going to download this one here from the Maven Central. So I'm going to download this jar file, and then I'm going to go back hamcrest-core, so that also I want to download. Download jar. So these two jar files I have downloaded, and I will be referring these ones into my project because these are the ones which is being required into my project as such. So let's go back to the Eclipse, and let's place these jar files into a location so that into my class path I can refer the complete folder with all these two jar files inside that. So let's go ahead with that. So let's create a particular new project over here. So we'll go for new Java project, and here I can give it like a simple one, a simple project name I can provide here, and JDK I'm using like 1.8, so that's the JDK version which I have utilized over here, and then finish. So this is the project which I have got like in the source directory. Now I'm going to create a simple file over here, a new class file over here. So I'll create it like JUnit class. So I'm going to create a class over here in this one, and of course I need to have a particular void main also over here in this specific class over here, because this is the initial class I'm trying to create over here in this one. I can create a custom particular methods also over here, but let's see like if we can execute or we can run some particular functions as such over here. Now I'm going to declare a function over here, public void JUnit method. So I'm just going to create a method over here. I'm just going to run a particular print statement over here. Executing JUnit test cases. Right now this is a kind of a method which is there, which of course I can run into my public void main, and this function will be executed, will be called upon over here. Now the thing is that right now since it's just a normal function, but the moment I convert it, like I have a @test mentioned over here, so what will happen, like this will be converted into the form of a test cases. Now of course, like right now there is no imports which is available there as part of this one, so you can see that the time I have added this annotation @test, I will be able to see like yes, add JUnit 4 library to the build path is something which is coming up over here, or it's saying like add JUnit 5. So whatever the library you feel that you want to add, you can do that, and that particular library will be added up over here. Now let's go for the JUnit 4 library here. The moment I do that, what will happen, you will see some changes. First you will see the changes in the top saying that import org.junit.test. That's a first import, and second import will be like JUnit 4. You will see like these two jar files is automatically being picked up by the Eclipse. Now, even if you don't download these jar files, this is the main benefit of the Eclipse, that these are already a part of the plugins. You can see their paths, that these are already installed in the.
If getting your learning started is half the battle, what if you could do that for free? Visit SkillUp by Simplilearn. Click on the link in the description to know more.
Plugins directory. So the moment you use these particular methods that you want to use the JUnit, these will be automatically imported over here into your system. Now you can just simply call this method into the main void main, and then the specific method will be executed as a form of test cases. So this is the mechanism that how you will be setting up the project. Initially you got the imports, you got the particular annotations configured, and with that the specific jar files will be automatically being added up into your class path. Whatever the jar files we added up, we downloaded previously, we can also have that added up into the custom class path. We can modify this build path of JUnit 4, which is coming up automatically. We can just simply say right click, build path, and configure. So this JUnit 4 we can actually import, we can remove it from our system, and we can add our external jar files also into the build path or the class path over here. So that depends upon you, that how you want to perform the customizations around that part. But yes, the particular main benefit of using the Eclipse is that it's already having the JUnit plugin installed. Both 4 and 5 version is installed. Whatever version you feel that you want to include, it will be included, and the plugins are already installed, so you don't even have to download the jar files manually. So that's how you will be able to do a very basic initial setup of JUnit, and how a basic project can be created over here in case of JUnit. In the upcoming demos, we'll see like how we can execute these particular test cases, and we'll get the response. We'll come to that point. So let's go back to the main content. Right, so that was the JUnit installation demo which we saw, and we saw like how we can put up or load the jar files related to JUnit into a class path, and we can resolve the basic features about the JUnit, about the test cases. Now let's talk about some of the certain features of the JUnit here. Now there are a lot of features which we get primary with the JUnit. Let's discuss about that one by one. So the very first feature about JUnit is that it's an open source network. Now it's something which is available as an open source to you. We have also seen the installation, so you don't have to really go for any kind of license or something like that. So you can do any number of test cases with this particular tool and this specific automation tool here. You can automate it into Jenkins. Nowhere you require any kind of license around this. So these can be easily integrated. These are already a part of most of the latest Eclipse installation, so you don't even have to configure these manually because it's already a part of your system. Right. Second is that it provides annotations. Now main annotation we have already seen in the previous case, that when we converted a normal function or a normal method into the test method by using an annotation called @test. So it provides a mechanism to identify that which particular method is a test method and which method is a normal method according to our classes. So these annotations really help us to identify the methods also, and it provides us the flexibility that these particular methods are not the normal methods we need to execute. You need to run it in the form of test cases. So that identification is something we will be able to do with the help of these annotations here. Also it provides the assertions to identify like what exactly the results are there, because definitely when we are running the test cases, JUnit test cases, we need to assert that what should be the value. So using the assert assertions, we can actually compare that, okay, this method is giving this value. Suppose there is an addition method which is available there, which is giving like a plus b is equal to c. So c is like 5 plus 15 is 20. So with the help of assert, I'm saying like whatever the response I'm going to get from the function when I give the values a and b as 5 and 15, so that should be 20 value. So in the assert I can hard code like, okay, this is the value, this is the response which I should be getting, and once the function is executed I should be able to get this particular output as in 20 over here. So that comparison when you do, you will be able to understand easily that yes, when we are doing the assert, I'm getting the proper response, I'm getting the proper output over here. So assertion is something which is very important to compare the things, to compare the inputs which we are getting from the application source code. Next, it provides the test runner, so we can basically run the test runners over here to execute the test cases. So you can configure this within the pipelines. You can configure it with Eclipse and various automations during the build automations. Also, you can configure it. So that flexibility you will be able to get with these test runners here. And it also allows you to provide a better feedback channel, because it acts like a very good feedback provider, because the moment you are done with the development, you will be able to get an instant feedback. So the overall quality of the code is going to be increased in this case, and that's definitely helpful for you, because with this approach, with this JUnit framework, you will be able to get a quite faster and a perfect code writing tool or a quality tool which is available there. So definitely the overall quality of the code is going to improve with the help of this JUnit framework. And it provides the automations also, because these JUnit test cases are having the flexibility that you can configure it within the pipelines. You can automate it with the help of this framework, that you can completely help, or you can have a complete automated workflow with the help of this particular framework. And it provides you an instant feedback. The feedback channel is quite instant in case of this JUnit. Now let's talk about the JUnit annotations. We have already seen like the benefit of the annotation is to define or to provide the metadata about the methods to the different ones. So annotations also refer to the syntactical metadata added to the Java source code. So having a particular better feasibility and identification is also quite easy. So also the overall structure of the source code can be done in a better way, and the readability is also good when we talk about the annotations here. The biggest main difference between the JUnit and the JUnit 3 was the introduction of the JUnit annotations. So earlier, before JUnit 3, we were not able to identify like if this is in kind of a test method or this is a kind of a source method over here. So that identifications is quite easy after the involvement or the introduction of the JUnit 4 framework over here. Also, like this is something which is really helpful to us to see like how exactly we can overall read the overall source code, because you have so many source code there present to your project. So annotation should be able to help you to identify that these are the main portions, with these are the components which is part of the unit test cases, not the actual source code. So @test is something which is going to tell us that the specific method with the public void declaration can be run or can be executed as a test cases. This is not a simple method. This is not an application source code method. This is a test method over here. Now @before is something which is used to run some statement before each and every test cases executes. Maybe having some additional or initial connectivity is something you can do with the help of @before. @after is something which you can do after the execution of the test cases, like some statements which you want to execute after the test cases. So that's something you can do, or you can go with the help of @after. And @ignores is something which you can configure if you feel like during the test execution you feel to ignore some statements. So that's where you can use the @ignores there. So @ignores, @after, @before, and @test. These are the 4 annotations which is being used most of the time into your JUnit test cases. Right? Let's talk about some bit more. Now @before is something which is being used to execute the classes, some statement before even any kind of test class executes. So not only before executing any method, this is something before even loading up any kind of test classes. So before @before class is being used. Similarly, @after will be there to execute it after all the test classes. And if we have a timeout configured, so what we'll have that we will be able to set up a timeout while executing the test cases. So timeout value can be configured over here. And then if you feel like if you want to handle some exceptions during the test execution, so that's where we can use this custom annotations over here to have the exceptions handled or configured over here in this one. So these are some of the very important annotations which is available there on the JUnit perspective. Now let's talk about some another demo on JUnit testing in the Java, like how we can pretty much configure the test cases in JUnit for a programming language called Java, and how we can get along or get execute those things. So now we are going to see like how exactly we can go for the execution of some Java files onto a command line, and how we can using the command line run some execution of the test cases. Typically we do it from the Eclipse, but from the command line also we are going to see like how exactly we are performing the setup and the executions over here. Now what we really need to do is like we need to see like how we can proceed further with the execution. So I'm going to open this particular Java file over here, so to get a better understanding here. So I'm going to use the org.unit JUnit class over here in this case. So we are having like couple of imports. These are the standard imports, so you can do like org.unit JUnit.star also if you don't want to go for the specific imports here. Now here we are going to create a test unit as a sample class, and in this one we got the void main over here, which is the main portion of any kind of class here. The only thing which we got over here is that we have created a test method over here called test print message. So we are assigning a value called message, a variable over here as in Simplilearn. Now what happens, like we will be able to do the assert equals over here, that if the value of message is like Simplilearn, so it will be able to help us with the proper output, and there will be no errors as such over here. So everything will be smooth, and that's what we are trying to execute over here in this case. And we are running into the null void, that these are the test cases we want to run or we want to execute over here. Now all we need to do is like we need to compile this one. We really need to compile this test cases over here, this file, and then we have to run that one. So for that, let me open the command prompt. So now in this case we will be using the javac command prompt here, and we will be copying the JUnit into the class path, so that we will not be able to get any kind of class not found issues over here. So test unit JUnit.java we are going to run. So if there is no exceptions as such, we will be able to get no errors here. Now I'm going to run the particular class file with the help of Java command, because javac is to convert the .java file to the .class file, the compile format, and then in order to run the .class file we have to go for the Java command line here. Now this means that there is no issues as such with the test cases, and everything is working fine as expected over here in this one. So the assert equals is going to help you to identify that if the execution is proper, and let's say like if we put up some content, like some different content over here in this assert equals. So I'm going to again execute this one, so that I will be able to see like if what will happen, that if this message value and this value does not matches. Like in normal situations it will say like, okay, the particular output is going up and there is no errors as such, right? So let's see like what exactly it will happen, that if we go for the executions, like if we save this file in such a way that we are providing some wrong inputs, and what will happen to our assert equal over here. So I'm going to again compile the file here. So again a new class file will be available, and this time I'm going to execute this class file again over here in this case. And the moment you did it, the assert will give you the comparison over here, saying that there is a failure of the comparison. Why there is a failure of the comparison? Because according to the code base, it was expecting the value called Simplilearn, but it simply got the value called Simplilearn 1.2, which means that your test cases over here got failed down. So this is the real way that how you will be providing the comparison, like what you should be putting up to the application and what kind of response you should be getting in return of that. So that's where you will be able to provide a proper and a complete comparison here, which will help you to understand that what exactly output you're going to get over here. And that's where the output will be completely available to you, and you will be able to get a proper output as such here. Right, so this is the way that how the comparison will be performed, and how you will be able to see like these two comparisons being done here as such. So this is the way that how you're going to run the test cases in the form of the from the command line here. So let's go back to the main document. Right now, the next one which we got over here is the JUnit test cases using the Eclipse, because from the command line we saw like using the command line we can do, but we got like so many test cases which is available there, so it's not easy for us to run those one by one. So we will be doing it through the Eclipse so that we can see like how the execution can be really done and we can get a hold of those particular components. So let's go back to the Eclipse, and this time we are going to run the test cases in the Eclipse here. Now let's create a new project again here. JUnit project, right, and finish. So a new JUnit project will be created. Now in this one you can see like there is no executables libraries for the JUnit, but you can include it now also, but I'm going to do it later on. So I go for the JUnit project class. Right, so this is a kind of a test class here, so I'm not going to put the null or the public void main over here in this one. So finish. Now in this case what I'm going to do is like I'm going to replace this content over here, so with this particular ones, and going to have some basic code base added up over here. So I'm going to import some particular JUnit libraries over here. So over here like org.JUnit, I'm going to import these ones, and I got like this class over here, JUnit project. So I just have to rename it a little bit so that it can be the name of the actual class name here. So that's fine. So everything is fine, but the only thing is that we are getting some failures and problems over here because it's not able to identify these specific JUnit related executables like the functions and the methods. For this one, again, the previous case, you have to do the particular addition of the library to the build path so that you will be able to have like these automatically resolved over here in this one. Right, so you can see now that JUnit 4 started reflecting over here in this case, and you did not got any kind of errors now over here in this one. So you can simply save this, and now you are good to go for running the executions over here. So you can simply say like right click over here, run as, and JUnit test. And when you do that, on the left hand side you will be able to get a little bit different viewpoint over here which says like yes, test underscore JUnit is something which is executed perfectly fine. If for any reason, let's say like I change the value of string 1 here as in string 1, just an typo error I'm trying to do here so that I can show you that how the test cases really fails. So assert equals is basically helping you to find out that if the comparison between the two attributes is correct, that means that the inputs which we are putting up and whatever the output we are getting, it's both the same here. When you do that, you will say like there is a failure over here to the test cases. Now I'm seeing the failure trace over here, so I'll just move this one to the console view. So it says like it should be like string, but I got like string 1 over here, which is causing the problem here. Because of the typo error which I did, the whole execution of the test cases got failed. So I'm just going to revert my changes back here and again run the test cases. It will all be okay right now again over here. So that's the main reason that how the execution really happens and the overall mechanism and the system can be implemented over here in this case. So that's how we basically go on and we execute some JUnit test cases here. Now in this one we are going to talk about like how exactly we can use both Mockito and JUnit here to go for the unit testing. But before even talking about these two tools here, let's focus on to understand like what is exactly a unit testing here. Now there are various kind of testing which is actually available into our particular industry and into our software testing world there. But yes, there is a very important scope and a position of the unit testing here. So unit testing is something which we also call is an kind of a component testing, is actually a software testing technique in which single component of a software is being tested. We are not talking about like how exactly our application is going to interact with other applications and it's going to interact with it's not a complete full-fledged application testing. So in this case, what we are looking forward is like this is something in which we are focusing on how exactly we can only validate and test out a single component. A single component is what we are basically talking about over here, right? And when we say like how exactly we want to perform, we want to achieve the setup here. So this is the main mechanism, or this is the main kind of testing which an individual developer performs at its own end to see like whatever the piece of source code he's writing, whether it's working fine as expected or not. So this is where we are able to see like the exactly what we are trying to achieve here, and how a full-fledged or a basic testing validation can be done. Now the main objective of this unit testing is to pick a unit, a very basic small unit of the source code, to verify it, so that it will be the moment the developer develops the code base, at that moment of time only this thing will be validated and will be fixed on. So this is something which we are looking forward over here to achieve, like how the automation needs to be done and needs to be achieved over here in this case. Next thing is, what exactly is the mocking here? Now we talked about like JUnit here, but next one is like what exactly we are talking about as in a particular mocking over here. Now when we talk about mocking, so we are basically trying to understand like what exactly we are performing, for what purpose we are going for the mocking process here. So mocking refers to the development of objects which are mock or clone of real objects. They are not the exact objects, or we can say like that's not the exact scenario which we are going to implement, but it's kind of a duplicate, or it's kind of a temporary mocks which we are creating so that we will be able to get it implemented. So mocking is something which is kind of a reference or a kind of a clone of an existing or a real object here. So in this technique, what happens that the mock objects are being used instead of the actual real object. So it's not like we are directly, or we are going to access the exact real objects over here. So we are talking about like using or going through the specific mock objects over here in this one. So that's where we are putting up the main focus, right? And mock objects actually give a particular output for each and every input. Whatever the inputs you are going to provide, you are going to get a particular desired output. So the mocking is going to process all these inputs, give you the desired output, and to understand like how the implementations and the setups can be done, right? So for this kind of mocking process, mocking framework is something which is quite popular. So Mockito is one of the framework which is available there, which is desired for this kind of work or this kind of approach only, where we are trying to see like how we want to perform a mocking implementation over here, right? So let's talk about the Mockito tool, because that's a primary tool which is there for the mocking activity, and we have already focused on like mocking is a process in which we are trying to process the mock objects rather than the real objects. So that's kind of verification here. So Mockito is a kind of a Java-based framework which is being used for doing the unit testing on the Java application. So if you have written the source code in Java programming language, then Mockito is a kind of a framework for you. So this is something which is helpful for validating the development of the kind of application source code here. So you will be able to validate that how your application is going to behave and it's going to work. So when we talk about Mockito over here, so it basically gives you a variety of information, like what exactly approach you are looking forward and what is the end result you are trying to establish over here. So that's the main focus of the Mockito which we are going to get, and it's for the basic approach over here. So Java Reflection API is basically used internally to generate the mock objects. That's a core component, you can say, like the backbone of this whole mocking approach over here. Mockito is used to simplify the test development by mocking the external dependencies and using them in the source code. So it's kind of a blending in the whole environment there, so that your application is going to get the desired environment, and being in that environment, it can start processing the inputs and then give the desired output accordingly. So this is what we are trying to implement as such over here, to see like how exactly this mocking can be done, and Mockito can really help us in this approach here. Right now, what are the different prerequisites which we require to learn Mockito? So we basically need two important prerequisites over here. First of all, we need the hands-on experience in Java programming language. So Java programming language is very important because Mockito is something which we can write in the Java programming language. It uses the Java programming language syntax, so that's a very important thing there to be considered. And second one is the JUnit framework implementation. So these two things we basically require for performing a complete full-fledged Mockito approach or mocking testing over here. So these are the two important components, or you can say like the two core prerequisites which we need to process before going for the Mockito implementation, right? So let's go to understand like how Mockito framework can be configured in Eclipse, because Eclipse is the prime tool for creating the development source code for the Java programming language. So we need to see like how we can configure the Mockito framework over there, because that's the single IDE which will be utilized by the developers there. So let's go ahead into that. In this demo, we are going to talk about like how we can create a simple JUnit and Mockito related program over here, so that we can have a basic project created and we can also have some basic program created on that part. So let me open the Eclipse here. Now in this one, what I'm going to do is like, first of all, I'm going to create a Maven project. Once my Maven project is created, then I'm going to include Mockito and JUnit related dependencies. And after that, I'm going to write a very small source code just to see like how exactly our dependencies are getting resolved, and my source code, which will come up as an error earlier, will come up as an healthy over there. So all I have to do is like, I have to just right click over here, new, and here I need to go for project. Like I want to go for a particular Maven project here, so I can expand the Maven over here and go for Maven project. Here it will basically ask me certain values. I want to use the default workspace location, so I'll just say next. Then I want to have it I want to go ahead with this overall process. So these are all projects, like what exactly architecture type you want to go. So I can just go for the default, whatever is selected, I can just go with that. And here I will be providing like what is a group ID. So I can provide a group ID called com.simplylearn, or depending on your organization you can actually provide it. So here I can provide Mockito, and the version will be like this, and this is the same way like how the project will also be created. The package will be created in case of the project here. So then I'll just say finish, and on the left hand side I will be able to see like my specific source code which is available there. So this is something which is going to come up over here. So it's actually trying to resolve some of the particular options, like some of the the components, like test executions, those are required over here. So I'll just go for this particular resolution later on, right? So I'll just open this pom.xml file here, and this is the pom.xml file, right? So it's basically looking forward for certain changes like this jar file. So this jar file is not actually available over here. So once I ran the build and those kind of setup can be done, then it will be able to download those particular dependencies. So if you right click on this one, you will be able to see that particular Maven build option here. So I can just run the Maven build, or I can just run the Maven clean here. So according to that, the Maven will be downloading certain plugins, and it's just trying to do some particular process over here. So on the left hand side, the source, main, test, the same package which is available there, the same packages is coming up there. So app test is available there. So here the test is being available. Here I can see like some couple of JUnit related test cases is already being there. Like I created a kind of a sample project. So in here, a basic Java and a basic class file or a test suite is already being available here. So all I have to do is like I have to just try to see like if I can go ahead with this executions there. Now it's using like JUnit 3.8.1 over here, so I can definitely go for a version which is higher, like around JUnit 4 or 5 there. But let me try to do a clean build over here, Maven build over here, so to see like if it really works on there. So what are the goals I need to do? I need to go for the goals called clean install. So that's a goal which we need to do here. So MVN will automatically be resolved there, but clean install is a goal which I want to look forward over here. So let's see like what it really happens. So it's going to download some couple of plugins, whatever the plugins I'm trying to provide here. Some dependent plugins will be downloading, so all that stuff will be downloaded. This is the first time we are running there, so that's why it may download some little bit more jar files than expected ones. Not, you must have seen like these are all jar files. It's not like something we are using into our project, but these are kind of jar files which is being used by the plugins, by the Maven itself. So for that purpose, it's actually going to that particular level. But once these are cached up there, next time if you do the run, if you do any kind of builds there, you are not going to see all these entries. So let me rerun the build here to show you like how clean the output would be there. So I can just go for clean install again and say run, and this time the output which will be a little bit less there. So in this case, as you can see, if I expand the output, so here first of all it ran, like it performed the clean activity, then it compiled my source code here, it also compiled my test cases here in this one, then my test cases got executed over here. So you can see like it's something which got executable over here. So this is the test which is available. I can click on that and I can see that, and after that it went on and prepared the final artifact here, which also means like it performs both the compilation and the test cases execution. And this is what we are doing in any kind of Maven project, and on top of that I'm using a JUnit related frameworks. So this is a mechanism where we can have some dependencies, like I can go for JUnit here, I can increase the dependencies, I can try out the build, so all that stuff I can do here, right? And one more dependency which I can include is of the Mockito here. So I can include the Mockito related dependency also over here, so that we can see like how exactly the response is coming up there. So you can see like it's when I go for the resolution over here, like clean build, clean install, so I can just go ahead with this. So this time it's actually going for the Mokito one. So you can see like all the steps has been executed and we have got the end result. So the build is successful and I have got the test cases also. So this is the test file where I'm actually loading up some JUnit related executables there. So I can just go with that, and whatever the activity assert we are using over here, so using which we can do the comparison. So this is a way like how a basic project can be created in Maven, and on top of that how we can manage the dependencies for Mockito and for JUnit here. Right, so that was a demo in which we talked about like how exactly we can configure Mockito into our Eclipse here. Now let's see like when exactly we require the Mockito to be implemented. Now in this case, what happens like when exactly you feel like you need to have a Mockito implementation, or how we can go for the Mockito implementation altogether here. So for example, when a component is to be tested, or a single unit needs to be tested, so this unit or component actually depends on some other component, which is kind of in development process, or maybe some other developer owns that component, and you are not exactly validating that component, you are validating your own component. But since it's actually dependent on other component or some other unit of the whole application, so that's the reason where you may not be able to perform the end-to-end testing. But yes, with the help of Mockito, you will be able to get the mock objects so that you can perform the testing there. You don't have to held up with that other component dependency. You can resolve all these dependencies like that, and you can just proceed further with your verification and your implementation. So this is the main benefit which you get when you talk about the Mockito, so that you can see that a full-fledged understanding like how exactly these different components are going to be processed here. Right, and when there is any kind of concern, like if you feel like there are some infrastructure components which is making the testing impossible, so in that case also we can use the Mockito to mock some infrastructure components, so that we can proceed further with the validation and the testing here. So all the hindrances and all the problems which we normally face when we talk about the implementation, all those things can be really implemented with the help of Mockito here. So that's a main benefit which you get over here in this one. Now let's talk about the next concept. So the next concept which we have is, what exactly is a stub? Very important concept here. So stub is a kind of object which holds up a predefined information, a predefined data. We cannot do a kind of a dynamic verification in case of unit testing, because we have to limit the scope of testing. We are putting up some inputs over here just to see like how our application is going to behave. These predefined data will act like inputs, and the test cases are going to process these inputs and give us the desired output. So these outputs we will be then analyzing to understand that how our application is going to behave, or in other terms like how application is reacting to these inputs, so that we can get an end-to-end desired output as such here. Also, it can be referred to as an object that looks like exactly a carbon copy of a real object. Of course, it's not a real object, it's a kind of mock object over here in this one, but it will give you the exact different details, or you can say like the exact output as such over here in this one. So that's a main benefit which we get with the stuff, that it helps us to get a mock object instead of the real object, so that we can get ahead with the testing and we can get all our environment for our test executions there. Right, and stubs actually they can actually return the specific output here, like whatever the output you require, so that will be returned over here. Whatever the inputs you provide, that is going to be processed by this one, and the desired output will be provided to you over here in this one. Now these stubs are used to reduce the complexities, right, so that occur while creating the real object. So that's also the complexity which is going to be reduced when we talked about the these specific stubs as such here. So whenever we talk about the stubs, we talk about the implementation. So this is where the complexities get reduced when we talk about the replication or the mocking of the real objects here. Right, so let's talk about like how we can see the stub in real action, so that we can get a better understanding, because from there we will be able to know like what is the main importance of stub in the whole mocking approach here. So let's go ahead with that. In this demo we are going to talk about like how we can create some prerequisites for testing out a stub here. So I'm going to create a required Maven project and a couple of class files over here to make a kind of environment, so that we can test it out the stub implementation in Mockito. So first what I need to do is like I need to just go ahead with a Maven project. So Maven project is what I need to create. A very basic project I want to create over here. You don't have to do much of the changes, like not much things you need to talk about over here. So the package direction, I can make it like okay, I just want the particular package. If you don't want to have the package and you would want to directly store the source code in source main Java, and you want to put the class directly over there without having any kind of particular com and all that stuff, so you can do that also over here in this case. So that will be much faster. So then you can just go for the finish here, and you will be able to see like a project created, like a source main Java, then this particular package name is there, then source test Java is also there. So here is the test file, here is the main file. I can go ahead with this one, I can create a file over here. You can pretty much do that stuff also. So or you can change like this existing one also. So what I'm going to do is like I'm going to create a new class file here. So I'm going to say like okay, create new class file, and in this one I'm going to put the particular class name and a specific content. So let's see like how exactly we can go. So we can go for a particular class creations as such here, or we want to create so one class and one interface we want to create, so that we will be creating over here. So I'm going to create an interface here, right? So to service, so that's the interface name which I'm trying to provide here. And in this one I'm just pasting the content. So this is already configured here, so I just have to configure like this, right? So then I'm just going to resolve this one. So the java.util.list is also resolved. So this is the to-do service.java which is available there. Now what I have to do is like I'm just trying to create it over here, and I'm just trying to create another class file over here in this one, so which is like my to-do business IMPL over here, which will be using this interface, right? So I'm going to create a particular class file in this one, and we are going to create it. Okay, great. So in this one again, I'm going to paste this content. So I have to just sync this one. So this is what, so I have to just rename it a little bit of this one. So I have to just rename as an particular this as a 2 over here. Great. So now I'm pretty much done here. So whatever the imports are required, I can actually go ahead, just this delta I want to remove it, and here we go. So we are creating a particular to-do service mechanism over here in this one. So we are also talking about the list here. So these lists, I can go for the auto resolution here. So I'm just going to save it, and then I'm going to see like for to do here. So to do is something which is coming up as a particular service here. So a little bit changes in this interface also. So I can you just have to sync it on the names. So whatever name you are using, so that you need to change over here in this case. So here also in to do service I have got it renamed, so that's where it got successfully resolved. And as far as the array list is confirmed, so I can just import that also. So I'm just done here. So if you by chance change this class name, then you change the Java file name also accordingly there, so that you will be there in proper sync up over here. So that's something which is available there, which we can use to see like how the implementation can be done, and that's a basic output which you're getting over here. Now this is where we have got all the required source code available there when we will be testing out the stub. So at that time we can actually use these one interface and one class over here. So this class is basically going for the interface call over here in this one, and that's how it's going on the implementation. So we'll come back during the testing, during the verification of this stuff. At that moment of time, this will act as a kind of basis for us here. So this is a kind of basic structure, that how you create a basic program or a basic source code over here in this one. So what I'm going to do is like I'm going to just create these stubs over here in this one to test it out, to validate that the things there. So last time we created the Java source codes there. Now the stubs we will be creating over here in this one. Then we are just trying to create, first one is for the to do service. So to do service stub, so that's the name which I'm going to use, and just finish it off. And I'm just going to put the content over here. So just in order to try out the particular matching over here in this one. So to do stub is what we are trying to implement, so that's what we are going to see here. So I'm just going to remove this mechanism, so I'm able to see like all the imports is working fine. In this case we are just trying to put some dummy information. So you can see like this is the array, this is the array list content which we are trying to provide over here in this stub. So we are basically trying to understand like how in the mocking activity we are trying to mock some particular inputs here, so that my stubs will be able to pick those up and they will be able to return those there. So that's what we are trying to do here. Now as far as this stub is configured, this is done. So we have to go for another stub here which will be there for the to do business IMPL. So we have to create this one for that particular implementation. So we have to put the content over here in this one to put the do business IMPL stub here, right? So I'm going to paste the content here just to match up the things. So I have to just put this content here. So I have to just rename this one, because even if we create some files, sometimes we may have to rename it. So that keeping in mind, I can just put this one here and say okay, and I'm just going to remove this component here, and here we go. So we have got like these components, like this is something which is available there. We have got the implementations which we are trying to do. We have got to do service and to do service stub both here, but these are the kind of wrong interfaces. So ideally my interfaces is com.Simplilearn.stub. So that's where we have got the particular to do service over there. And similarly here also we have got the particular ones which is available, so which is also there in the specific com.simplylearn.stub.todo service stub here. So this is a mechanism where we will be able to find out. Even if I don't give this import, that's totally fine, because I'm already there in that package, so I can just refer it from there. And we also have the JUnit related ones which is available there, so we are getting the errors for the JUnit components over here in this case. So we also have the pom.xml file here in which my JUnit is being utilized. So in this one we are basically trying to use some references around the JUnit here, so you can get it on board on that case. So I can just try to run on the particular Maven build here to see like if all the dependencies are getting implemented, so that we will be able to download some required dependencies. So clean install, again I'm going to just refer it over here. I can just run the specific test also, like if I feel, but I'm just trying to download some couple of components over here in this case. So if there is any kind of issues which you are getting during the execution, so you will be able to see over here, for instance, like org.junit does not exist over there, right? So since these packages are not downloaded or not installed, so that's why you're getting the issues as such over here in this case, right? So these are the references which is available there. I can just go ahead and import some of the JUnit related ones in this case. If I feel like I want to run it, so I can run this Java file also over here. This file also I can run it over here, right? So those are different options which is available which we can utilize in this case. So I'm just adding the JUnit 4 library so that my all references related to JUnit should be resolved here. And the moment I picked up that one, you can see like all the errors related to JUnit is gone. Now I can run my build here to see like if it's getting successful. So this time, okay, so it's going for that particular mechanism, so I can change the specific version as in 4.0. let's see, like it's getting resolved, so it should be able to download that particular artifact. So I just have to find out that what is the version, what is the latest version we want to provide, and according to that the artifacts will be there and it will be executed. So there are some cases when we are using the default mechanism of creating a JUnit or a Maven project in Eclipse. Sometimes it actually uses an older version. So it was using 3.8.1 version, which is old version. So I'm using 4.0. So this source code is actually prepared according to 4.0. And the moment I started using that, the moment I tried on that one there, so you can see like here it got executed, like both the test cases got executed over here. I have got the response over here in this one, like these two test cases is being provided over here. So test run is 2. There is no failure, all good, and then ultimately it went on to the jar file preparation here. So this is a way like how the stub is actually going to particular it's going to call the particular specific classes, but yes, in this case we are just trying to input some values, some static values which is not the real objects, but it's kind of a mock of an real objects. And that's how we are going to continue with our test cases, just to see like some inputs, if they are not there we can still go for the testing and we can do the verification here. So this is a mechanism like how we can test out a stub to go to see like to understand like how the overall mocking is going to happen here. So that was the main implementation on how the stub can be implemented in the whole process, to see like how exactly we can go ahead with that. Now the next demo which we are going to talk about is like how we can full-fledged implement the complete Mockito code here, so that the end-to-end implementation of the mocking of real objects is what we can get over here in this one. So this will give us the complete insight about this whole process. Now first we will be creating a specific we are taking up a stock inventory kind of example over here. So we are going to create a Java file over here which is named as stock.java. So I'm just going to create a class file here called stock, and in that case we will be providing the content here. So I'm going to create a stock class which is having certain methods, certain functions. Stock is the main function which is available there. Now we have to create a particular interface which is going to which is going to be used to get the stock there, and then ultimately at last we will be getting a one test file which will be testing out this thing, the communication, and see like if the Mockito is getting passed or the test case is getting passed or not. So this is the class file which is available there. Get stock ID, set stock ID. So basic getter and setters are being used over here in this case. So now I have to create a particular interface here with the name called stock service. And in this case I have to call the get price over there. So get price is basically configured over here in this one, right? So we are going to just call upon on that to see like how exactly it goes out there, right? So we will be utilizing this one. So this is the interface which is calling up the class called stock.java. Now once the stock main class and stock service or stock interface is being created, now we have to create a particular portfolio class here. This portfolio is a kind of interface which is going to consume this specific stock here. So portfolio class is what we are going to create here. So I'm just going to use it, and it's using some list operation. So I'm going to just import the java.util also so that these can be imported. So these are some couple of activities, like under this one we are also calling up the stock service interface, so that can be calling up the stock internally, and this is kind of a business logic which is happening. So portfolio.java is kind of a business logic, business layer, where I'm just trying to call the main class there to fetch the details through an interface. And in this one we are basically doing the all processing, like whatever the activities I'm trying to do. So here I'm doing the processing about the data here, right? So this is what we have from the source code perspective. Now we will be moving on to the test cases perspective, where we will be writing a test file to do the mocking over here and to get the stocks and try to do some verification. So now I'm going to create a particular portfolio tester here which will be testing this specific portfolio here. So that's what we are going to do, right? So it's going to use some of the Mockito related jar files here, and since we already have those dependencies, like we already got those added up to our pom.xml file. So and these are also being shown up as an Maven dependency here. So both 4.0 and this Mockito dependency is there in the Maven dependencies, and that's why we are not getting any errors for these imports here. And we are getting some list related errors, so let me import those also, and we should be fine by now here. So as you can see, like here when we are doing the verification, right? So using this portfolio tester, we are actually inducing some stats. So here you can see like we are doing some setup. We are calling that stock service over here so that we will be able to call upon, or we will be able to get the information. And here we are actually putting up some content. So the whole idea why we are putting up this content, just to have the implementation. We are just trying to replicate real objects here. These are not the actual real configurations or real information which we are getting from the end users, but these are the dummy informations or the dummy data which we are trying to provide here. And depending on that, we will be able to get like how it's going on there. So we are basically trying to call a function called tester.setup there. Tester.setup is what we are trying to call upon over here, which will set up the initial information, and then we are calling the test market value. So my test market value will basically give me a pass or fail kind of result set here, so that depending on that I can decide that whether it's successful or not. And this test market value, only here we are putting up some dummy informations, and against these dummy informations the test cases will be executed. So let's just run it. My build is already success, so I don't have to run it again there. So what I need to do is like I need to go for this portfolio tester.java here, so that I will be able to get the results. And here we go, we are getting the pass output over here in this one, right? So this is what we are trying to do, just to see like how the implementation should be done there. I can go for a negative scenario, like where I can just a little bit modify something over here in the output, and I'm just trying to change a little bit of specific output. So that's what I'm trying to do here. So I can definitely go and see like if this is something going to process properly, or is there any kind of problem which we are getting over here. I can also remove this decimal value just to see like if I'm getting successful over here or not. So I'm just running the test cases again, and here we go. We got the response as in failure, because the expected thing is not coming up like whatever we are returning. So that's where the failure, it's going to for the failure. I'm going to roll back my things here and see like if it's again getting success or not. So yes, here we go. We got the past success over here, the past status over here in this one. So just like that, you can actually mock the objects. You can put some inputs, and according to that, the responses will be coming up there, and you can go ahead with that particular mechanism. So this is the way that how the things really gets moved on when we talk about the Mockito, and how we can mock the real objects, and we can test out our application here. So that's what we do with the Mockito here. So that was a complete Mockito code, or you can see like complete demo over here, like how the overall process really gets implemented over here in this one. Right now, what are the different benefits of Mockito? Let's process that one by one. So the main benefits of Mockito is like, first of all, we'll get started with the very first one is like the no handwriting. So that's the very first benefit which is coming up over here. Now, second one is the object creation. Third one is the safe refactoring. Then we have an exception support benefit which we get over here. Then we have got like the annotation support which is available there, and then the order support. So these are some couple of benefits which we got over here to completely understand like how exactly the particular Mockito can be really achieved over here in this one. Right, so this is the real benefits of Mockito here.
That brings us to the end of this video. I hope this was informative and interesting. If you have any questions regarding this video, please feel free to drop them in the comment section below. We will be happy to help you. Thank you, stay safe, and keep learning.